At the beginning of the film, we're introduced to the Hippocratic Oath, basically a promise that doctors are supposed to heal people and never use their knowledge to harm others. Then we meet a couple, Ted Gray and Gwen. They're clearly close, just enjoying each other's company. Ted is a doctor, and not just any doctor. He's extremely smart, mentally strong, and specializes in forensic pathology. Ted also graduated top of his class at Harvard. On this day, he's starting his internship at one of the best pathology programs at Metropolitan University Medical Center. A fellow intern named Ben really looks up to him and is assigned to give him a tour of the place. They head into the pathology room, where several other interns are already working. That's where Ted meets Dr. Morris, the supervisor of the interns. Morris already knows about Ted's talent when it comes to analyzing causes of death. Soon after, Ted is introduced to another gifted intern named Jake. Jake is so skilled that he even helps the FBI solve murder cases. Not long after that, they're given a case involving a young boy's body. The other interns give pretty shallow and inaccurate conclusions, but Ted goes way deeper. He doesn't just guess the cause of death. He studies the child's psychological background and daily life to understand what really happened. Because of how smart he is, Ted ends up being disliked and even bullied by the other interns. But he doesn't really care and stays focused on his career. Later, at his new apartment, Gwen calls him and asks how his first day went. The next day, they examine another body. Out of nowhere, the body suddenly starts twitching. Ted reacts instantly and stabs the back of the neck to disconnect the nerves from the brain, stopping the movement. Ben once again approaches Ted and praises how impressive he was. Around that time, Ted notices Jake and his group heading off somewhere, but he doesn't think much of it. Days go by with Ted and the others continuing their work, analyzing one body after another. Then one day, Jake invites Ted out to party and relax. Jake's group consists of 5 people: Jake, Juliet, Griffin, Catherine, and Chip. Jake and Juliet are a couple. The 6 of them hang out, and it's obvious that Juliet is kind of interested in Ted. Later, Jake asks Ted to go out with him alone. They drink together and eventually end up at a place that turns out to be a prostitution spot. Jake even bribes the guard to get in. By this point, Ted is already very drunk. Everything around him starts to feel overwhelming and disgusting. He gets more and more nauseous, and eventually he just passes out. The next morning, Ted shows up late, and out of nowhere, the body they're about to examine turns out to be the same guard from the prostitution place. Ted is shocked the moment he sees it, so he steps away to calm himself down in the locker room. Meanwhile, Jake and the others start explaining their version of what might have happened. One thing is clear: the victim was stabbed multiple times and had severe head injuries. After a while, Ted comes back and presents his analysis. According to him, the man was first hit really hard, then poisoned with potassium cyanide, and about 6 to 7 hours later, he was stabbed and shot. It sounds strange, but that is exactly what Ted concludes. Later that night, Jake invites Ted to a hidden place in the basement. It's full of long corridors and unused rooms. Then things get even worse. The guard's body is actually there in one of the rooms. Jake asks Ted again about the cause of death, and at that moment, Ted realizes the truth. Jake is the one who killed him, and Jake just casually admits it. To Jake, this is all just a game. He believes killing bad people who are a burden to society is not a big deal. He asks Ted again how the man died, and Ted repeats his earlier conclusion about cyanide. But now Ted is clearly disturbed and decides to leave. As he walks away, he sees the rest of Jake's friends, and it becomes obvious that all of them are involved in this twisted game. Ted is completely shaken. He starts thinking about whether he should report them, but at the same time, something inside him is curious. As a pathologist, the more complex a death is, the more interesting it becomes to analyze, and this game pushes his skills even further. When Ted meets Jake again, he suddenly changes his diagnosis. The guard did not die from potassium cyanide, but from nitric acid. Ted even explains the exact sequence of how Jake carried out the murder. Jake is seriously impressed by him. The next day, Juliet approaches Ted and asks if he is interested in joining their game. She gives him the address of a patient who is already dying. The idea is simple: if Ted wants to join, he can use this patient as his first victim. It turns out the patient had shot his own family and attempted something unthinkable, but he is still alive. This is where Ted starts to lose himself. He convinces himself that the patient is going to die anyway, sooner or later, so he decides to kill him, but in a complicated way.
Maybe, to be honest, I half expected it.
At least there's Thanksgiving. Are you sure it's all right? Because it's not too late to change your mind.
After it's done, Ted feels extremely guilty, But Jake calms him down, saying this is just his first time, and the guilt will eventually fade. That night, Ted brings the patient's body to their underground meeting spot. The group officially welcomes him. They celebrate using drugs, and Ted starts to feel the rush, the excitement, like he's fully part of their world now. The next morning, when Ted wakes up, he finds something horrifying. Two of the patient's eyeballs are sitting on the table in his room. Now it's Juliet's turn to pick a victim. She asks Ted to come with her to her father's house. Juliet hates her father because he's a child predator, which is why she and her mother left him a long time ago. Not long after, they managed to kill him. Back with the group, everyone tries to figure out the cause of death, but they are all confused. Then Griffin finally gets it right. The victim died from excessive liquid nitrogen, which caused anoxia, meaning the brain could not absorb oxygen, leading to death. On top of that, Juliet brutally stabs the body multiple times. Things get even crazier when her relationship with Ted starts getting out of control. Jake notices that Ted helped Juliet, and to him, that counts as cheating in their game. Then Jake drops a shocking truth. The man they killed was not even Juliet's father. Ted gets furious and immediately confronts Juliet because they just murdered someone she did not even know. As days go by, the game continues. They take turns choosing victims and making each death as complicated as possible. After analyzing the bodies, they erase all evidence by burning them. At the same time, Ted and Juliet's secret relationship keeps getting more intense. Ted also starts enjoying the game more and more. Until one day, Dr. Morris approaches him. He notices that Ted has changed since hanging out with Jake and the others, especially with the drug use. Morris warns him to stay away from Jake before he ruins his career and his life. After that, the holiday break comes, and Ted decides to go back and see Gwen and her family. Gwen is really happy to see him again. They spend time together with her family, and her parents are confident that Ted has a bright future ahead. That night, Ted and Gwen get close again. Gwen decides to stay at Ted's apartment for a while as she prepares for her exams. But when she arrives, she is shocked to find a meth pipe. Ted quickly makes an excuse, saying it belongs to a coworker, and he just has not thrown it away yet. But it is obvious Gwen does not fully believe him. She wants Ted to open up if something is wrong, but Ted keeps insisting that it is not his. Later that night, they attend a party with other doctors. Gwen gets introduced to Ted's friends, including Ben and his partner. Not long after, Jake shows up acting arrogant as usual. He starts saying inappropriate things, and Juliet even makes a few remarks toward Gwen out of jealousy. At that moment, Gwen realizes that these people are the ones using drugs. Since Jake already knows that Juliet has feelings for Ted, things quickly escalate.
Fucking touch me.
Oh, what? Huh? You wanna fuck that guy? You wanna fuck that guy? Go fuck that guy.
The tension explodes into a fight right in front of everyone. That night, Jake calls Ted and asks him to meet at their usual spot. Ted tells Gwen he needs to step out for work, just for a bit. But when he gets there, things are already out of control. Jake has killed 3 women. As usual, Ted analyzes the bodies, and when he correctly figures out how they died, Jake is thrilled. Later, when Ted returns to his apartment, Juliet is already waiting near the elevator. But this time, Ted has had enough. He tells her he wants to end everything and go back to living the right way because things have gone way too far. Unfortunately, Jake sees all of this, and it only makes him more furious. The next day, Ted meets Jake and says he wants out of the game, but Jake refuses to let him leave. Ted holds back his anger and pretends to go along with it. Jake tells him there will be a meeting that night, and Ted has to be there. Ted ends up going out late again, but before leaving, he promises Gwen that this will be the last time he works overtime. That night, it is Jake's turn to bring a victim. But when he reveals the body, it turns out to be Juliet. As Chip gets ready to light the fire, Jake suddenly realizes something is wrong. The room is already filled with gas, something Ted secretly set up. The moment the fire is lit, a massive explosion happens, burning everything in the room. Everyone is caught in it except Ted, who has already walked away. The next morning, the hospital is filled with ambulances and firefighters. No one really knows what happened. Dr. Morris explains that there was a fire in the basement, and 4 doctors have died. Ted is shocked. 4, not 5. That means one of them might still be alive. Worried, Ted tries calling Gwen, but she does not answer. He rushes back to his apartment, but he is too late. Jake has already been there.
You remember me from the party?
It's Jake Gallo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ted is completely devastated when he finds Gwen dead. Dr. Morris expresses his condolences and mentions that the police suspect Jake since he has gone missing. There is a strong chance Jake is behind the deaths of the other doctors. Since the cause of Gwen's death is still unknown, an autopsy is required. Ted asks to perform it himself, and Dr. Morris allows it. Ted carefully examines her body, trying to figure out exactly how she died. After that, he prepares a report for the police and her parents. Some time passes and life seems to return to normal. Then suddenly Jake shows up and attacks Ted. Jake is furious, not because Ted tried to kill him, but because the reported cause of Gwen's death is wrong. To Jake, it makes the murder look simple, and he sees it as his greatest masterpiece. For so long, Jake felt inferior to Ted. But now he believes he has finally won, because Ted could not figure out how Gwen died. But Ted just laughs. The report was intentionally falsified, so Gwen's parents would not have to see the horrifying truth. In reality, Ted knows exactly how Jake killed her. Out of nowhere, Ben appears and restrains Jake, then injects him with a drug to paralyze him. It turns out Ted and Ben have been working together this whole time. They plan to kill Jake in the same way Gwen was killed. First, he is paralyzed with a drug, then injected with potassium into his bloodstream, and finally given nitroglycerin on his tongue. After that, the body stays conscious for about 7 minutes before death. But this time, Ted takes it even further. He begins to dissect Jake while he is still fully aware. So the moral of the story is if your coworker invites you to a fun little game in a creepy basement, maybe just go home, drink water, and mind your own business.